Okay, here we go. Second episode of TouchDesigner Y U NO. That's what I'm calling it now. I'm going to be going over things. This video series is supposed to be, what's my premise? Oh yeah, things that are difficult for beginners to get about TouchDesigner. This isn't pro stuff. This isn't how to do X, Y, and Z technique. This is strictly like nuts and bolts, infrastructure, idiosyncrasies in Touch, or like things that are not entirely intuitive at first glance. So today I want to talk about chops, and I want to talk about why you might use chops, but specifically I want to talk about getting values into chop world and how the different approaches to that get you different strengths and weaknesses, or have their own relative merits in different contexts. So the first way you might think of to get a value into a chop chain, just like out of nowhere, a specific value might be like a constant. If you just want a single value, and we talked about this in the last video, but here you go. There I have a single value in a channel. How can I change this from a programmatic, context? Like I could go into a Python context, let's say, and talk to this constant chop here by I'll do it in an external editor. I'm going to say op constant 1, and then I need to address. So let me just show you something really quick. If I try to address the first channel of this and I try to set a value to that, watch what happens when I run this. I get an error. The error says the constant chop object does not support item assignment, which is to say I cannot directly talk to the channel component, right, of this constant chop. It does have a channel member, but I can't talk to it directly. So how do I talk to it? Well, oddly enough, what I actually want to be doing is talking to the value 0 par of the constant chop, and that is my interface to the sorry, I got a cord in the way. Is my interface to the channel. So value 0, and then I'm going to say, what did I say? 5. Let's try that. So run that. Now I can change that value. Okay, so that's your first gotcha right there. So this is a way to get, as I say, like a value at the beginning of a constant chain. In order to actually generate a chop chain, in order to actually generate values in the chop context, believe it or not, there aren't that many ways to do it. Here's another way to do it. It would be a script chop. And script chops, you got a couple more steps, but you can basically fold your Python right in. So in here, I might say, on cook, I'm going to clear script op append chan, I think is what the append chan 1, I think is what we're calling it. And then I'm going to say, I want to capture that, the result of that, what is that, method function. And then I'm going to say, how do I talk to a channel? Let's look at the documentation. This is what we should be doing from the start here. So I'm going to pull up the Python documentation, and so I never remember how this works. I'm going to scroll down, append chan, and that's going to return a channel object. And then when I want to talk to a channel object, why is that not a link? I don't know. But in order to talk to a channel object, I'm going to say channel class. And then in the channel class, I can write to its values how? Blah, blah, blah. I can assign directly to it, where this is the index of the sample in the channel. And since we're talking about the 0 index, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say C, the channel of 0. I don't know. Let's just try that. It gets 5. And then that should do that. Whoops, I'm writing the same object. No, that's fine. Right. Okay, so that's another way, okay, to get a value in here in the context of executing. Let's see, we paired these two up. And let me look at my notes. I thought I had more comprehensive notes here. Maybe I just made an example of this and then I threw it out, which is, reasonable. I'm supposed to be doing it in front of you. But I'm not posing myself as an authority. That's why it's called TouchDesigner Y U NO. You get to watch me flail. Okay, so an execute dat is another way that I could do this. So here's the problem: is this script chop will fire this method, this onCook method, only when it's forced to cook, but it's not cooking all the time. So if I were to say, be referencing a dynamic value like abs time.seconds, seconds, right? That only changed when I saved, and if I force this to run, I can get the new value all the time. But similarly here, we have that same problem where if I edit this and I refer to abs time.seconds, that assignment will only happen when I run this, but it won't continue to happen. Now, you might think to yourself, well, no, if you just want to do that, you can just write that assignment into the value field directly as a reference to, in this case, abs time.seconds. This might be the value of a chop channel somewhere else that's changing, or anything else that's changing all the time. But this is the only one of our examples right now where we're coming out of a context that's going to constantly cook. And by cook, I mean execute within the context of a cook time slice, right? So this is happening every time TouchDesigner cooks. I'm reevaluating this Python expression and getting a value back from the abs time module, right? But this one is not. So what can I do about that? Well, now we're starting to get kind of convoluted, right? But I might put down an execute dat. Execute, not to be confused with dat execute, but the execute dat has a method that is on frame start, right? Which is going to get us a cook every time one of the frames. We start cooking a new frame, which is the equivalent of a time slice. I think I'd actually have to think about that a little bit. But I could say, what is this? Text one. Okay, I could say text one. Oops. Dot run, and I'm using the run command. Run. I'm gonna save that out. And then now this one's going, but there's a cost to this. Actually, I don't know where my cost is going to be. There's my cost, and that's a fairly sizable cost. Let's actually compare these here. So let's look at what the difference is. And I'm not trying to talk about this from a point of deep dive optimization stuff, but if I am curious, and since I brought it up, and I can't help myself from taking detours here. We're looking at the two cook times here, and then we're going to put them in a trail, and then I want to, display number of graphs, all graphs in a super. Okay, so it looks like this one is actually more expensive than this one, but I believe we have a hidden cost in here somewhere. I actually don't know where I would find that without going through the whole performance song and dance. Performance monitor, but something to think about. You're now chaining executions. These probably have a cost that is stacking up. Similarly, in my execute here, I could tell my script one callbacks to execute, or I could tell my script one chop to cook. And let's find cook. This is a callback, right? Is time slice, allow cooking, cook information, cook. Did not mean to scale. Well, let's just try that. I believe there's a method that I can just call this that says cook. I might be wrong about that though. This is a good one for the toots. There's probably no cook method, right? Captain Cook? Negative. What's going on? How you doing? You're not even going to throw an error? You don't want to throw an error for me. No? That's odd. Well, I can always tell it to run. Oh, wait, not the callbacks. It's not the script. Let's see if that does anything. Save. Negative. How do I force a cook? Well, let's look at the documentation. We'll watch my force cook. Maybe I did something wrong. Let's say force true. Let's try that. Force true. Save. Oh, okay, there we go. That's the problem. Okay. So now we're cooking with gas, as they say. And let's look at another info here. And boil this down to just cook time. And we're just kind of comparing apples to apples here. Apples to oranges. That appears to be, generally speaking, the most expensive of the three, but it's more consistent than this method. Again, I don't know why. Okay, so let's think about another way to do this, which is, let's get a text dat here. And we're going to, in the text dat, we're going to me dot store, and then you're going to say your key and your value. So we'll just say my key, and then the value is going to be abs time dot seconds. Save that, and then so I'm going to run that. And then if I bring up an examine, if you're not familiar with storage, storage is a local dictionary on every op that you can access programmatically or scripting wise. So here we have this value, and then I could reference this value in a shop context. And again, you could do it any of these other ways, but I'm going to say text to, what was it, fetch, and then my key, and then it's good to provide a default value, and then it'll do it once, and again we're back up this same issue. So I'm just going to throw this in here. I'm not really sure if the cook time thing is all that relevant for comparing these different methods, but I felt like I had something more profound to say. It's text2 text2.run about the relative merits of these different methods. Let's see. So we have to restore all the time in order for this value to stay evergreen. Here's a kind of obvious one: is I might have a dat, table dat, and I have the value 5 in here, and then I'm going to use a dat to chop. Boom, and now I have first row is value for values and values. There we go. So there's my value. But what if I wanted this to be an expression? So if I change this to, oops, well, I'll do it here. Abs time dot seconds. That's not going to work. This needs to go into an evaluate dat, right? And now it's constantly evaluating. So now this is, hey, look at that. You know what I mean? Like, whoops. Let's go in. Hi. Null. Yes. So Yahtzee, right? So this is one of the least kind of convoluted ways to get out of dat town in a way. The evaluate dat is going to evaluate by default the expressions in the cells of its inputs, unless I provided another expression dat, or if I provided an expression here. But here we go. This is being executed at relatively low cost and seems pretty consistent, although this guy is quite expensive. The evaluate itself is quite expensive. Okay. So what the hell's my point? Well, I want to paraphrase the great Elbers Sorkabi, who says that he only goes into chop world when he's going to keep it in chop world. The way he phrased it is either convert immediately to chops or do everything in chops and do everything in chops, or don't convert at all. And what does Elbers mean by don't convert at all? Well, what am I doing with this value here? If I get this, this time, right? And what I wanted to do with it was, I don't know, like, what can I do that just keeps going that makes some sense? I'm gonna change the phase of a ramp top. Well, directly, since this is happening all the time, I'm doing it on a per frame basis, I might just do it this way. But if really the value that I wanted was abs time.frame, especially as of the latest experimental releases, this should not be a huge performance hit to just do this directly and not funk around with all this stuff. What Elbers says is the family conversion is expensive, and you don't get the benefit unless you immediately convert and make up ground by doing everything in chops. If we're just dealing with something that is accessible in a single reference, in this case, where is my reference here? Just abs time.seconds, and we're not doing anything with it after that, meaning like in a long chain of ops that eventually leads to a null that eventually gets exported or referenced somewhere else. Like if there isn't a whole bunch of XYZ in here, then there's not a lot of point in getting to Choptown to begin with. And so this is the bigger point, and I kind of lost touch with this as I got used to TouchDesigner. lost touch. Maybe that's what I should call this video series. Anyway, is if you're going to be using a value that can be computed any other way, if it is expressible as an expression, if it's a static value, if you have it in a DAT context even, let's say like I have this null here, I could even just be referencing that directly, which is to say null 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, right? And then just cut out the middleman. You don't need to get into chops to access values. And you know, again, like with the new experimental build, even if I wanted to do something to this value, like, I don't know, something dumb like that. What's your problem? Seconds. Okay, what is your problem? No, seriously. Name sign. What? Jerk. Anyway, even if you want to do something dumb like that, this is expensive because it's expensive to move ramp tops around. Tops are expensive in general. That's not true. Ramp top can be expensive. What was I saying? Oh yeah, even if I want to do some computation like this, I'm running the stable version, but apparently in the experimental version, this kind of thing is fairly efficient. You may want to A/B with a method similar to this, your cumulative cook times for, let's say, having a value like abstime.seconds here or into the DAT context and then doing the math, let's say in the context of evaluate that, which is probably pretty expensive, or let's say in a chop, so where I have it here, this is my abstime.seconds, and dropping in a math. If I'm dealing with lots of values, which is to say a whole lot of samples or a whole lot of channels or a whole lot of channels with a lot of samples, and or any of those things with the values changing every cook or every frame as they are here, or every second, no, it's every cook here, you may want to be looking at doing your manipulations of those values in chop land. It's just you need to take into account not just the cost of these, whatever manipulations they are, a math, a logic, whatever it is you want to do, but also the family conversion, as Elbers puts it, that we're doing, let's say, here in the DAT2, or even these kind of force cook reference things or reference assignments. This is probably expensive because it's showing its display, but yeah. Storage, etc. Matthew Reagan has done a really great comparison of the cook costs, the essential time costs for many different value reference methods, whether it's storage, referencing a cell in a DAT table, assignment, blah, blah, blah. This is not meant to replace that, but it is meant to say, if you find yourself struggling with getting a value into Choptown just so that you can reference it, which is to say, you know, use it in the context of our ramp, for example, make a reference like this, reevaluate whether or not you need to even get into Choptown. All of these different techniques are valid to get into Chop World from somewhere else, but they all have a cost, and they need to pay off by providing you the high-speed, lots of numbers manipulation you can do in chops that are, this is the best context to do that stuff. I hope that makes sense. Please leave your comments below, you know. Tell me what topics you want me to cover, and let me know what I'm wrong about. There's got to be some stuff in there. And, you know, critique my speaking voice. Take the opportunity to make some kind of like backhanded compliments, you know, about my touch technique. That would be Landon or somebody like that. And really importantly, you know, get your chop on, I guess. I don't really know. Thanks for watching. Bye.